me, Nimsoni. Welcome back to another video of the adventures of Egg Boy and Tubby Sonic Cat. This is actually probably going to be the last video I do on the Sonic Frontiers topic. I'm not really a sort of talking channel. I'm more of a game development channel. I kind of showcase a lot of work that I work on, VR and other stuff. And just about that, actually, people were wondering, what is this animation system? What is this setup that I've built here? It's actually completely custom made and it's running in Unity. I've got multiple rooms and stuff like that in this whole setup here. So I can switch over to here as well, and I actually have the ability to control this TV as well, stuff like that. It's just plenty of good stuff going on in this zone here. But I also did decide to do something new for this video. I added a new, excuse me, the camera tracking there got confused by my hand being in front of my face. So yeah, I'm using a webcam tracker here and a Leap motion controller for my hand tracking, and then there's plenty of work that I do on my own stuff as well, including the ability to completely customize the character here. You can see where the inspiration came from. Rayman there, you've got some Mario techniques as well, and Tubby himself can also change his costume. So there we go, we've got some cool stuff for him. But yeah, I did add a new environment for this video, so let's go through my room transition system, however you want me to say it. Okay, my accent can pronounce both if I wish. So let's switch over to the new zone that I've got specifically for this video. Really cool. Woo! There we go. Absolutely brilliant. I love this. This is wonderful. So if you want to have a look at the whole world here, I'm just sort of flying through Green Hill Zone here, just for fun, purely for the sake of this video. But I might update this environment eventually as well, just make it much more fun. But yeah, other than that, you can just have a look through the world here. I have got a few loops and stuff that I've put into the world just as we fly through it. It's really cool. This is infinitely looping. It's a complete sphere, but it's actually 2 quarter spheres built into a looping sort of mechanic. So yeah, I just sort of spent a little bit of time making this look nice and stuff for this video. So let's get over to here and we'll be able to have a look at some cool stuff going on here. First thing I wanted to show you, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the questions that had gone on the video, in the video comments. And the first one is, what am I? I'm a game developer. Just some people questioning like whether I have much credibility in the game here. So I just want to show you a little project that I'd made. This was a while ago. This is a Sonic project that I'd made. The mechanics of Sonic here were built in about 3 days. I just kind of wrote the mechanics, and this level here is just designed in the way that I kind of want to design a Sonic game, right? So this is stuff that I've made from scratch, my own sort of build. And there's some cool stuff that I can show in here, but not much going on. The first thing I wanted to show though here is how I kind of want to handle rings. So there we go. You see how the pull-in happens with rings there as I run past. I just don't understand, because I addressed this in the video as well on how Frontiers is doing rings. You can actually see the LODing there, right? So if you look carefully at this ring here, you can kind of see the quality of the ring is lower. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but the quality of that ring is lower, and then as I get closer it's actually higher quality. But you'll notice the rings aren't getting pulled towards me here. It's only when I get really close they get pulled towards me, and that's just different depending on the speed of Sonic, right? So if you go past now, it pulled all of them in. Oop, he's gone a little too high. It pulled all of them in, and I don't understand why there isn't that sort of quality control at this point yet, right? Also the ability to kind of go through loops and stuff. It's just, you have full control, and they can really work on stuff like that. I don't understand why they don't. It's just, it's not difficult stuff. Like, they can really do some cool things here. And for some people wondering, okay, you're a programmer, you can make the mechanics. What about level design? How much do you really know about level design? Well, I built this level. It's based on the original game. So here we go. It's Emerald Hill Zone. And if you look on the side view here, it's actually just the original game's levels structure, but I've kind of relayed it out for VR and for 3D as well. So this project was supposed to be both 3D regular desktop gameplay and VR, and I haven't finished it yet, but you can play a demo of this on my itch.io page as well. So I just wanted to kind of show you can convert a regular, even a 2D Sonic game, into a really nice playable version of it here. Like, you can do some really fun stuff with this. I don't understand why it's so difficult even for a linear or even a 2D Sonic game to be converted into 3D. It's really fun to play around with something like this. But anyways, I just wanted to address some concern about whether I really knew anything about platforming and stuff. I've been doing platforming the whole time frame of my channel, because a lot of people have mentioned that. It's like, okay, one person said most of his work seems to be VR. Yeah, it's VR nowadays, but I do address a lot of stuff like this. But anyways, let's get back to the focus now. We can close that up. So let's get back to what we're focusing on here. It's just the new footage that we've got. So we've got some new footage from both from IGN, not IGN. We've got some new footage. We've got a new interview, and then we've also got some text from IGN. We've got some review text, and I wanted to look a little bit at all of this, right? So the first thing I wanted to mention, a lot of people did wonder whether or not the footage was from IGN or whether it was sent from Sega and then they just uploaded it, because I mentioned about the quality of it, and really it's kind of let's maximize this for ease of use here. There we go. And really it's kind of, I don't know whether it's IGN footage or Sega footage, but regardless, the quality is just really low, right? And Sega's kind of confirmed and allowed that footage. I don't understand why it's so low quality. But one of the things that people mentioned was, okay, now that we've got some new information, especially from IGN here, they mentioned that it's an early build. And yeah, so here we go, early build, right, written here. So it says here, of course, it's worth emphasizing that this gameplay and the version I played were from an early build. But this is definitely an area that I'd hope to see improvement in the final version. And he was talking mainly about the pop-in there. The thing is, of course it's an early build, right? Any build that is made before the game releases is an early build, right? So this, of course, is an early build. It could literally be made today and it would be an early build. This is just the way the language that's being used here. It's just stating the obvious. It doesn't really, that's not new information to us. Even if a build was made tomorrow, it was planned to be made tomorrow, that's in the future right now, it would still be an early build. It's not the final game. So that's not really, it's not really new information. This is just, we know it's an early build, right? But what I was saying and what I was trying to explain in my video was that it's not just an early build. If it's very recent, or if it's even within the past year, then the question is whether they'd even be allowed to make those modifications. There should be a full game. This game is 6 months from release, about 6 months from release, and apparently has been in production for 5 years. If that's the case, then we are very far from any changes being made to this kind of stuff. Pop-in, engine changes, character controller changes, that's not allowed. They're not going to be allowed at this point to make those changes, because they impact the entire game. Especially the pop-in stuff, that's engine features. Anything you change an engine is affecting the entire game, and that's just too risky. It's a very high risk maneuver, right? So let's get back to the footage. There were some new things going on in here, and it mentions new gameplay mechanics, right? They've mentioned this just before this section of the trailer here. It's very minimal footage, and I'm pretty sure it's the same build, right? I don't think it's new build or anything, new footage or anything like that. This is just stuff that wasn't in the last video. So let's look at what's new, and also a thing that I missed, right? So there was a thing that I missed, which is loops, and in fact you could see it right there. I mentioned that there were no sort of Sonic features, is what I really meant. I know I mentioned loops specifically, but really what I meant was Sonic features in the landscape at all, right? And in this video we can see two of them, which in fact I actually missed from the previous videos. So the first one you can see is the loop here. Very obvious, but that was in fact in the previous video. So this is the original footage video that I reviewed a little bit. So you can see here he bounces off this, does the most awkward looking animations ever, and he looks like he's having a bit of a spasm attack, right? I mean, look at him there. I'm not supposed to be addressing that yet. But yeah, there's the loop, right? So there are loops, and that's not a rail grind, that's an actual loop. So very likely it'll just perform the way that it performs in this video here, where Sonic is automating through it in a sort of a completely automated section. It's not like you had control. The other thing that you can see in this video is this ramp here. So now the question is whether they're really allowing us to have control over Sonic. And I don't think it is the case, but when you look at this ramp, and it could just be that we're too far to see them, but I don't see any springs or any helpers or anything like that. I don't see any rail connected to that. So are we just being allowed to launch off the ramp? Like, are they actually allowing us to play Sonic? Possibly, right? So that's how the mechanics usually work, is what most people want to call momentum. But I don't know, it's really questionable, and that's because of the interview that we're going to have a look at in a moment. But the other thing is, they did mention some new gameplay features. Well, what are the new gameplay features? And that's where I have a real major issue. This is the new gameplay feature being seen, because everything else is exactly the same as before. It's this. Right? So what are we actually looking at? Well, this is what we're actually looking at. You know what game this is, right? This is the new feature that we're being shown in this new footage of the game. This is the only new feature being shown. And even then, it's questionable, because just rewatch this section here, watch Sonic move, and watch the smoothness of the video. Okay, so that was really nice and smooth, right? Sonic jumps, the camera's nice and smooth. Now this is actually a polish feature. This is, unlike the gameplay mechanics, this is a polish feature, right? But it's smooth, right? Sonic's dodging and stuff, and it's smooth. Now rewatch this section. And it's very jumpy. It feels lower quality than Sonic Boom. I'm comparing this to Sonic Boom, and I'm saying that Sonic Boom has higher quality. That is not something I ever wanted to do, but that's very worrying, right? Again, this is, yes, it's early footage, but it's early footage in relation to the release. But the release is, we are way beyond like the 50% mark here. We are very close to the last stages of finalizing the game's sort of outer look. None of this should even be changed at this point. These are all, you know, built-in mechanics. The camera smoothness should be the final result at this stage, and this is the same thing that we see in the combat. In fact, I kind of want to address that as well while we're on the Sonic Boom topic. There was some combat mechanics that I never really looked at and never really addressed, and they are kind of mentioned here. And you can see how the camera is sort of very, very aggressive when it comes to this as well. And obviously I mentioned that sort of sudden move that Sonic makes, where he jumps off things and performs that special attack. I don't think it's in this video. But then I carried on watching this footage of Boom, and skip along a little bit here, where Sonic drops off the ledge, and then you're fighting enemies here. And watch this. Smooth, camera movement looks great. This looks really high quality. The combat system here looks really high quality in comparison. And this is Sonic Boom, where you can just look at it and it's not a high quality product in the end, but I'm looking at this and it feels nicer and higher quality than the combat system we've got. Now it's obviously got less depth. It's obviously got less depth and less complexity to the system here. But when compared to the combat system here, this one looks like a low quality game, right? This one looks low quality in every way, and it just is. It just is, and I'm comparing it to Sonic Boom. I don't want to have to compare this to Sonic Boom. I should never be comparing anything to Sonic Boom, but Sonic Boom seems to have higher quality control. We are very, very late in the production stage. This is really, really worrying. Like I said, this video is going to be a little bit out of balance compared to the last video. It was a little bit more structured in the last video. It's just purely because I'm just addressing a few leftover concerns. This is more of a follow-up video. I'm not really going to be able to do more of this stuff. I don't really address this kind of type of a video usually on my channel anyway. But this one, in fact, I can't do more of these because I'm running out of environment ideas. Look around me. But there we go. So yeah, there we go. Next thing I want to just look at is the interview, and this is where things get extra worrying for me personally, right? Let's just have a look at this interview here. Ooh, there's a lot of noise going on in the background there. So what he's mentioning here, Iizuka's mentioning here is about how they designed and chose the features for this game and why they ended up with Frontiers, right? Now, the first thing he says is he starts talking about the linear game design, right, of the regular Sonic 3D games. So here we go. We thought about the standard linear format of the 3D Sonic games, and our ability to innovate felt limited, right? So he's mentioned he's got a limited ability to innovate because of the linearity of that gameplay. He says here he spoke to the developers, right? And then he says this, and this is where it's really worrying to me. I mentioned earlier, one of the factors for the idea for this project was to take the linear game design and turn it into an action game with a high level of freedom as the core starting point. This is very worrying because what he says later on in the interview, when he mentions Sonic Adventure and everyone starts shouting and screaming and everyone's like, wow, yay, we're getting Sonic Adventure. I'm very worried about this statement, but what he says here, just before that section actually, in Sonic Adventure we had adventure fields which were smaller open spaces. So that means he's acknowledging that they had an adventure system which was designed, and favorably so. Obviously, we all know now that's in the past, so we know that the adventure games did well and people love them. That was designed for open spaces. He's addressed it, he's acknowledged it right here. And then what he said here is that he wants to take the linear format instead of the adventure format, and he addresses it right here. Unlike the open world action adventure games, and he's talking more about Zelda and stuff like that here, the origin of this game is completely different. The base of our game is the Sonic 3D action, and I don't believe he meant the adventure games here, because he's not actually talking about that. He's talking about moving the linear systems into an open world. So he's not actually talking about the action adventure format, he's talking about the linear format. And then that is how they came up with Open Zone. What he's directly said here is, instead of starting with adventure and open world gameplay mechanics, they've started with linear mechanics and just built an open world around those, which is why we end up with just constant rail sections and very, very automated mechanics, right? And he mentions the other games here, and he wants it to be unique in that area by simply starting with linear mechanics. This is really, really worrying, because what he says after that is this: I haven't really thought about my next game, but I would hope all of the work we put into Sonic Frontiers can be used to make another Sonic Adventure game. So he said, we acknowledged that Sonic Adventure had a different system to the linear games that we have now, but for Sonic Frontiers we started with the linear games and built an open world around that, and we'd like to take that logic and all of the things we've learned from there to make an adventure game. I know that everyone's cheering, but I really am worried about that statement, because what I'm seeing is instead of making another adventure game, we're going to make a linear game and call it adventure. And this is really scary, because when you couple this with what they've said here, right, in the middle of the interview. So here we go, and he mentions realistic look. There we go, communicated, frontiers. He also mentions another thing, and while I'm looking for this, I'll just mention this. Soundtrack also has less focus on upbeat tracks themed for each specific zone, and of course it's more friendly to the, yeah, here we go, more focused on creating and supporting that feeling of mystery. So the one thing that I love from all of these linear and overtly linear games, I'll show you that in a moment, how linear these games are. The one thing I love was the music, and I actually use that while I'm producing these videos and stuff like that. I just use it in the background. I can concentrate better while I'm listening to Sonic music. And now they're going to remove even that. They've changed that. It's like, okay, everything I love about Sonic is just torn out. And even then, the things that they want to address in the past are not here, right? It's just, it's kind of gone. Does he mention Origins here? Okay, so here we go. So going forward, they've addressed the fact that the fans here, so Sonic fans from 30 years ago are adults now. He's not wrong. I'm 30 years old. It's very obvious, right? So we're the old guys, we're the old git, right? We're the grandfathers right now. There are also young fans, new people who have started with movies and other content. Going forward, we want the Sonic brand to appeal to both groups. Okay, so how are they going to do that? They're going to do that as part of the strategy is our June release of Sonic Origins. Now, Sonic Origins is full 2D format, right? They've taken the original games and they're just re-releasing. Obviously with some cleanup, and they will need to remake a lot of the engine stuff anyway, so these are all remakes, probably based on Mania as an engine, and they're just doing 2D Sonic, like regular 2D Sonic. After this, they really need to focus on making a new 2D Sonic game that is purely based on the Mania concepts, right? Mania and Origins Sonic and all of that, right? No 3D elements at all. They shouldn't be touching new 3D engines at all. They should stick purely with sprite-based 2D work, right? Completely just sprites. Fully 2D, and make a completely new Sonic game out of that, using the classic style. But in my opinion, there's a problem here, right? And that is, they've addressed that. It perfectly presents the origins of Sonic in a format for those who grew up with the originals and the new series. Right, fine. So that works for us. We all love it. Then we plan on releasing titles like Sonic Frontiers as something new that even our 3D Sonic veterans will find new and exciting. Personally, I think new is correct, but exciting, not so much. Now, my problem is there's something missing, isn't there? He's jumped from Origins, which is the full 2D sprite-based games, straight to the new, which is Sonic Frontiers. Completely linear in an open world. No fun gameplay mechanics that you can use the physics of Sonic for. And it's just completely diverging away from the one thing that I'm really hoping that they'll just do eventually. And they're kind of saying they're just never going to do it. They're never going to do an adventure style game. They've diverged completely away from an open controlled 3D Sonic game. And now they've got the 2D classic and a completely non-Sonic the Hedgehog unique experience. I don't know if they know what they've created with Sonic the Hedgehog. I think they've completely missed the mark now, and they've gone completely out of focus, and they're just looking totally on linear games that use an open world. Now, I did mention I wanted to show just how linear those games were. Let's have a look at a video that I made a while ago. This was very contradictory. A few people didn't like this, but a lot of people kind of grasped a little bit about what I was saying in this video. So in this video, I have a little video of my keyboard here, and I played Sonic Generations. So this is one of the good ones. This is one of the great games that they've made. But I played it with this one finger, and the whole level, and I granted this is a tutorial level, this is the first level, but you can't do this in any other Sonic game. I'm never going to touch the directional keys throughout this entire video, right? So you can have a watch of this video as well if you want to, if you're interested. And even this section really shows just how overtly linear these games have become, where firstly I'm not touching any of the directional keys at all, and then when you look at this, I'm not touching the keyboard at all here, right? Not at all. And I press one key, I just tap it, this whole section, I haven't touched the keyboard, this whole section is just done. It's just done. I'm never touching the keyboard all the way until he lands down here, and again I'm just pressing the boost button for the most part, right? So this is just a video that I had in the past, and then I complete this whole video never touching the directional keys, and I get a perfect score. I get a perfect score. Granted, the ranking system's probably just overtly easy, but this is really questionable, right? It just gives you a bit of a showcase of how unbelievably linear the mechanics must be for me to never touch the directional keys and be rated high, right? Be rated highly. I don't even mind the rating, it's just never touching the directional keys, completing the whole level. Completing the whole level in a good time. It's just how linear these games have become, right? So let's look a little bit again at some of the footage. Again, like I said, there's not much structure to this video. I just wanted to mention some of the things that I'm seeing, and they're really worrying me beyond just Frontiers. But let's get back on focus on Frontiers one more time, and we'll look at a few more things that I saw in the previous video, previous footage, but nothing really has changed here, right? So here we go. We'll have a look at this section here, right? Now, here's something really worrying. A lot of people said, okay, the new footage looks good. I don't see any new stuff going on other than the loop and the Sonic Boom style mechanics. But if we step through here, you'll notice something on the left. Right, so this glowing thing on the left here, this here is popping. And this is actually, I mentioned this, we were chatting a little bit about the Frontiers videos at work. I was talking to one of my colleagues who's a programmer, and he'd mentioned as well that he noticed this popping of colors, right? So here we go, this glow here, you might think, oh, that's just it's part of the game's aesthetics. They're trying to cover up the popping with something that fits the aesthetics. I don't think so, guys. So there we go, you can see here immediately it becomes one of those rail things, right? So that glow is not supposed to happen, by the way. That's just popping. So with this new footage from Sonic Central, the live stream, there's nothing changed on the popping side. Okay, nothing's changed. This is exactly as it was. But let's look at that, right? Let's look at how that popping happens, and you can see it here. Let me just explain what that colored stuff is. So with a 3D game engine and 3D work in general, what you have is a bunch of textures which are images, right? So you have literal image textures, and then on what those do is you have something called a material, and the material uses textures to produce a certain way in which the object would interact with light, right? So the material has all of the values of how reflective this object is, what type of shading it uses, is it cell shaded and all of that. It uses shaders as the code for that, but the material puts it all together. It puts the textures together, the images, and it puts all of that together. When loading the game engine stuff, when loading an object in place, you need to load the object's mesh, which is the 3D shape, and the materials to render it, right? What they're doing here is they're loading the object really quickly, and then, which is not quick enough because it's already on screen by the time it pops in, and then the material is still being loaded. So what they have is a default material. Now in the Unity engine, for example, oh, I don't have anything to show right now for that. In the Unity engine, you'll see this pink effect, right? It's just a blank matte pink color. You've seen it before, you've seen a default material. In this engine, they've got an actually textured blue effect, right? And you can see that what's happening is that it's a material loading, right? Because if you look here, you can see this object here, these panels in the top here, so they haven't popped in yet, so they're all here. And as we go closer, this is the draw distance issue. They pop in, right? So here we go, it pops in with a blue color, right? So here we go, we've got a blue color, and that pops in. Now, how do I know that's actually a material pop in and it's loading the materials? Well, as we go forward, once this object has fully loaded, so now the object was there, the materials have loaded, and now they're rendering. But now for each of the extra panels, that material has already loaded. As a result, there is no blue effect, and they just pop in, right? So they're just popping in one at a time, fully. They load the object and immediately pop in. Now, the reason these are popping in one at a time is purely because of the draw distance, right? It's not that there's any engine problem going on here. The draw distance is very short. And I believe the draw distance is short because they're probably having some problems with performance, which is why this material thing is going on. Because the problem with this is that it means they're unloading those materials and loading the materials. So these aren't things that aren't very common in the world. These objects are super duper common, yet they're having to unload those materials. And we can see this extra here. So let's try and catch this section here where Sonic is on these rails underneath this platform here. Right, so here we go. In this section here, we really get a chance to look at what's going on here. So here we go. This thing here, this boost that's on the rail, it's right here in front of us, right? Here it exits the screen and we slide around a little bit, and then here that same boost is on this rail down here. The material has already unloaded and been reloaded now because it's come back into view. And these are common objects while you're grinding on the rails. So they're really having to unload things from memory even when they're going to show up within a second. And they know they're going to show up within a second. They're still having to unload everything, down to the materials that are super duper common, from memory. I think the engine just has some serious memory management concerns. I don't know what's going on. There's some explanations in the comments in the last video, but this is a worrying set of things going on, because I mean, and it's taken so long for that material to come back as well. The loading going on in this engine is severely problematic right now. It's just really lacking in any sort of general purpose structure going on in a modern world game. It's really worrying. Also, I did want to address the combat mechanics. I mentioned that earlier already, so that's about pretty much everything. I know this video has been very unstructured, but this loading mechanic and the statements they've made in terms of, you know, I'll keep it running. The statements they've made in terms of, just in terms of what they're planning to do in the future, it's just really worrying. It really is. It's really worrying. I don't know what's going on with their ideas for Sonic, but I feel like the future of Sonic is completely linearized now. All 3D Sonic games are going to use this linear mechanic, even though they've decided to go full open world. It's just going to be very linear in the mechanics. They're never going to come back to that momentum style that everybody wants. And other than that, they're going to give us the 2D games for that. It's just, there's just a major block missing. And I hope that you can kind of understand my point of view on the adventure games, right? I don't think that they're really ready to do Sonic Adventure at all. I don't think they will be ready for a long while until they start moving away from the new mechanics. They've doubled down on linear mechanics even when building an open world. They've doubled down on linear mechanics. It's it's shocking. It's really shocking. Anyways, I think this video has gone on a little bit long, and thanks very much for watching. I hope you kind of like this environment. I'll give you a nice view of the forward here. But yeah, I think that's the last I'm going to touch this game. I know this video was probably going to spark a lot of concerns, and a lot of people are going to be questioning certain things and details. Just post them in the comments. I'll try and address a lot of stuff. Hopefully I addressed a lot of the points and concerns as well in the last video. Thanks very much for watching. I will see you in the next video. If you're interested in this channel, please have a look at more of my work. I do a lot of work on platforming. I do a lot of work on just everything in general in terms of game development. I have a series of videos doing how it works as well, where I play a game and describe how those games are working behind the scenes. I did one of these, I did 2 videos of that on Super Mario Odyssey and Mario 64 and just platforming in general. So if you want to know a little bit more about platforming and you like my mentions on animation blending and stuff in the last video, please have a look at all of that. Thanks very much for watching. Sorry this video has been very long. We'll see you in the next one if you're there. Goodbye.